Today I tested 3 popular watercolor varnishes to see which one actually protects your art without ruining it. One of them failed badly and one was a really surprising winner. And I'm going to show you exactly why this happened. It involves 88% humidity and a chemistry effect, apparently called blushing, and how to make sure it never ever happens to your art. But stick around until the end because there's also a wild card option. I'm testing Dorland's wax at about 20 cents per painting, Krylon Gallery Series Matte at 56 cents, and Golden Archival MSA Satin at 95 cents, and I'll show you which one survived my 88% humidity test. Before we even talk about varnish, here's what I'm actually testing. I painted different areas to answer the real questions watercolor artists have. 1. Will varnish change my colors or deepen them too much? 2. Will it kill granulation or flatten that beautiful paper texture? 3. And most importantly, will it actually protect the painting from water? I painted these on December 3rd at 10 p.m. and I didn't varnish them until the 7th at around 9:40 in the morning. So that's roughly 84 hours of drying time, a little over 3 days. Watercolor feels dry in 10 minutes, but the paper fibers hold onto moisture much longer than we think. If you varnish too early, you can trap that moisture and get clouding or sticky, uneven areas. As a rule of thumb, give your watercolor at least 24 to 48 hours before varnishing. If you've used really heavy washes or you live somewhere humid like I do in Washington, go up to 72 hours or more to just stay safe. Let's start with the community favorite, Dorland's wax. A 4-ounce jar is roughly about $11 in 2026 and covers roughly 50 10 by 14 paintings, which is like 26 centimeters by 36 centimeters. So it works out to around 20 cents per painting. It's non-spray, relatively low fume, and a lot of watercolor artists love it because it feels very tactile and painterly. On watercolor paper, it's honestly a dream when it's applied thinly. It deepens the colors just a little so you can see the phthalo getting a bit richer here, and the granulation in the ultramarine still shows through. Let me give you a bit of tip on the Dorland's wax. I used to use gloves and my hands because that just feels more intuitive, but actually they do suggest us to use a brush. So I did that. But I wanted the Dorland's wax to be warm enough, so I got a palette knife, scooped up enough on my palette, and then I placed it in a warm area for about 5 minutes. I also warmed up my brush, so it helps because if you warm up Dorland's wax, it'll deteriorate, and that really helps. So I started applying it. So I went 1 layer for the ultramarine, but for the phthalos on the paper and the aqua board, I basically waited another hour until I layered the second layer. And after 12 hours, I started buffing. Now for buffing, you would want to use a microfiber cloth or a cotton cloth, whatever you have in handy, and you buff it in a circular motion, but don't press too hard into the painting. And for the aqua board, there was one specific thing that happened that I wasn't very happy about. Because the surface of a paper absorbs the wax, it kind of works well with paper. But when you use it with something like aqua board that is a clay surface, it just sits on the top because of just chemical properties of it. Maybe I should have waited more than 24 hours to buff in it, but what happened while buffing was that the wax that was on top started moving around, creating these streaks of white unevenness on it, so I didn't quite like that. So you might want to stay away or either try to wait a bit longer than I did. So I will be testing the water test at the end for all of these surfaces. So next, it's called the Krylon Gallery Series UV Archival Varnish, and I have it in matte. This can is around $14 to $15 and covers about 26 paintings, so roughly 56 cents per painting. On the day I filmed this, my garage was about 15.7 degrees Celsius and the humidity was roughly 88%, so classic Pacific Northwest winter. I sprayed the ultramarine swatch at the proper distance, about between 12 to 14 inches is the best, so it's roughly 30 centimeters away, and did everything by the book by spraying a bit first on a scrap piece of paper, and if you're right-handed, to use the left of the painting to spray it first and roughly guide yourself horizontally to the right. So that's what I did. Within minutes, it started to turn snow white. But this isn't just a bad can or a random failure. Three things all work together here to create this disaster, I think. So number one, the flash chill. Krylon solvents and propellants evaporate very fast, and that rapid evaporation actually cools the surface. In high humidity, that cold varnish film pulls in moisture from the air. And number two, the matte problem. Because this is a matte varnish, it's full of tiny powder-like particles that scatter the light. When you trap water around those particles, you get this milky snow white haze called blushing. Number three, paper is a sponge. Watercolor paper absorbs moisture from the air. In 88% humidity, the paper itself is already holding water, and the varnish basically sealed it in. So now you might be thinking, but Miwa, I've seen artists like Ali Kavanagh recommend Krylon, and that's right, in her context. She paints on clay panels, which are non-absorbent in a very dry climate, because I believe she lives in New Mexico. So the moisture problem I have here in Washington just doesn't show up the same way for her. I'm painting on paper in a cold, damp garage, so Krylon in my climate is a totally different product experience. But I would say that for the final one that I did on Aquaboard, wasn't at all bad. It kind of settled in really nicely. So I wouldn't call Krylon a terrible varnish. I'd call it more dependent on the weather and the climate that you are in. In a warm, dry studio on panels, matte Krylon can look beautiful, I think. In 88% humidity on watercolor paper and in cold weather, it's a gamble that for me is not worth taking. Finally, I tested the golden Archival MSA Varnish in Satin under the same conditions. So a can is around $19 to $20, and for my test coverage, it worked out to about 95 cents per painting. So this is the premium option. And look at the difference. On paper, it dried clear. I would say no snowy haze, no chalkiness. I would say the mass tones got this like reddish film on it when you look it from the side, but they're still luminous and you see the granulation and texture underneath. So why did Golden survive where the Krylon failed while being both spray type varnishes? Golden uses a mineral spirit acrylic resin called MSA. With slower evaporating solvents, that means the surface doesn't get that extreme flash chill, and the moisture has much time to escape before the varnish film fully locks. And because the one is satin and not matte, it has a fewer matting particles, which make it much less prone to that cloudy, blushing effect in humidity. Ultimately, what are we scared will happen to our watercolor paintings? Getting water on them. So let's test them out to see. So here are the three swatches that I've done using the Dorland's wax medium as the varnishing. So phthalo, ultramarine, phthalo again. For the ultramarine, I only layered it once. So here I layered it twice. So these are double layered. This is one layer. And the Krylon UV Archival matte finish, they were coated twice, and you can see the difference. It's really bad. Can you see like how bad this one is? I just find this quite interesting, the Krylon varnished ultramarine, because I'm not sure why it's so different from the phthalo that I varnished. And these are two papers, but the phthalo one looks less bad compared to this one, and this was closer to the outdoors. I had a bit of the garage door opened, and this was the furthest out. This was basically the one I sprayed first, so it doesn't really make sense, because the one I sprayed first, I would imagine it would have got much more cloudier, but that wasn't the case. But anyhow, I varnished these three. The Krylon on the Aquaboard looks really beautiful. These three were coated with this golden satin archival varnish. I'm gonna go with using this pipette right here and see how each of it takes it. And we will be bringing up the water level as we go. So let's see how the Dorland's wax takes it. Okay, ready? Here we go. Ooh, I'm going 3 droplets. Ah, looks good. It's just beat it up on the top. Let's do it for each one of these. This one, I only did 1 coating, okay? And let's see if it just drops down. Basically drop down. Drop down. This is so good. I want to take it like really closely. Beautiful. All right, I kind of saw that coming actually because it's wax, right? Now I'm going to just spray some on top completely. Maybe I'll tap the paper on it. So I'm tapping the paper, see if any phthalos get on here. A bit here, but I probably just miss an area at the top. So that's pretty good. Yep, pretty good. Even the one that I only varnished once. Oh, that's pretty good. Yep, even one coating kind of worked, I suppose. Okay, and then final aqua board. Any coming off? A bit. I missed a mark, but yeah, it's good. It's good. Okay, let's go to Krylon. This one, really, I just have no idea what's gonna happen. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Oops, went overboard with that one, but all right, let's see if it slides down. I mean, it doesn't slide down as much, but it's not that bad. Oh, that's, wow, okay. That makes a difference. Did you see that? With the one that came out really patchy, like snowy, that one dropped up way more than it did from the phthalo one. This one? Ooh, that went down nicely. Okay. The Krylon on aqua board definitely works, seems to work nicely. Okay, that's interesting. I guess partly the reason being that because it's a clay board, I have a feeling that it just stays on the top surface and it doesn't get absorbed by the paper. Maybe that plays a huge role. Let's see if wiping these down takes anything out. Do you see right there? It's coming off a bit. Let's see here. Yeah, it didn't make much mark. Interesting. Let me change the paper towel, although it's a bit too late. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and let's see if it picks up any watercolor. Definitely picking up quite a bit right there. Not much from that snowy haze, which is interesting. Okay, and how about from the aqua board? Nope, didn't pick it up. It's unfortunate I used the same paper, but you could see the difference. Let's make it here. Maybe that was like that, not sure. Okay, and the next one up is the golden archival varnish. I am going to drop in 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then let's try picking it up. 1. Oh, okay. Okay, that was pretty bad. Not as bad as the Krylon, but still yet not much with the ultramarine. And how about with the aqua board? Let's see. Nope, didn't lift it. Interesting. The difference is very interesting. I wish I kind of went on with actually splitting all the paper towels, because I used the Dorland's wax one for soaking up some of the water here. Next, I'm going to pour water on this. Oh my God, this is gonna be a disaster, is it? So we're pouring now. So here, first we're going with Dorland's. Ready? Yep, nothing, nothing. 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 Excellent. That tells me that is a full-time winner for postcards that might end up in the rain. Next one, I am going to try pouring the Krylon ones. Let's see what happens. I don't want to put that on top of my desk. I'm gonna leave it right there. Wow, amazing. That is amazing. That is ridiculously amazing. Look at that. The Krylon with the aqua board. Wow, okay. So let's see here. The Dorland wax ones didn't kind of come off. I'm not scared about that one, but this one actually, it's not that bad. It did protect from water, I would say. How about the ultramarine blue? It came off a bit, but not as much. So I would say like it's better than I thought. We are going to pour it on top of the golden. I saw, oops, a bit came off. It's coming off. Coming off. Interesting. I guess there was a layer that I didn't quite put it on. All right. It's moving around, definitely. I'm just gonna place that right here. Going over the ultramarine. It's not moving. That is good. I don't see it moving as much as the other one. And then next, golden on aqua board. Oops, I feel like I didn't place it at the bottom right here. Okay, now I'm going to pat dry it, see what happens. So this is the aqua board. Yep, good. It kind of, it's interesting how the aqua board works. It didn't lift at all, like the Krylon one. Okay, how about the watercolor paper? Yeah, it didn't lift as much. Yep, that was pretty good. And then finally, the phthalo. Yep, I don't know what happened to that one, but that's pretty bad. Maybe I didn't coat it as much. We'll have to look at the video, but I have a bit of mixed emotions here. I might even consider going for the Krylon for the aqua boards specifically because they look very smooth and velvety. I love that effect on it, and they're cheaper options, so I might go for that. For watercolor paper that I want UV protection, I probably would go for the Satin Archival Varnish by Golden. Also, it kind of worked on the aqua board. For postcards that I don't care too much about it lasting for a long time and it's like a Christmas card or something like that, I'll definitely use the wax medium. I do use this for painting like my small micro canvas pins. I use these wax mediums so then they can be kind of put on their bags or something and they might get rained on sometimes, so I protect it with that, which works great. So if you want to use satin or matte sprays without recreating my Krylon disaster, there are a few rules you really have to follow. I learned these the hard way. Number 1, keep humidity under 50%. This is non-negotiable for matte sprays. If the air is too wet, you're basically inviting blushing. And number 2, if the can has been stored in a cold place, warm it gently in a bowl of warm water for 5 to 10 minutes. And what I did was keep it around the vent, like a warm vet, a bit away, not too close, but enough to like warm it up gently. And that helps reduce the temperature shock when you spray. Number 3, shake for a full 2 minutes. Not 30 seconds. Those matting particles need to be fully mixed or you'll get uneven sheen and chalky spots. Number 4, spray upright only. Although I didn't follow this because I'm super scared of the varnish like dripping down and creating like this, a stain. But I don't think I had to. I used to spray upright, but after using this Krylon matte, I'm just super scared because it just directly comes out in full motion. But I suppose this is better practice to spray upright, and always start and end the spray off the edge of your artwork so the first burst doesn't splatter the surface. So that's what I did. If you're right-handed, start from the left of the painting, off the painting, and then to the right. And if you're left-handed, the other way around. And number 5, stick to 2 to 3 thin coats max. With satin, especially matte, more coats just add more matting particles and can start to make the painting look dull or milky. And the wild card I mentioned at the beginning, it's a brush-on solvent-based varnish, Golden's MSA UVLS, that makes your watercolor feel almost like an oil painting on a panel. So it completely breaks that don't touch watercolor with a brush once it's dry rule, but when you do it right, the finish is ridiculously beautiful. But I have to say, this doesn't work on paper. It only works on other surfaces other than paper, like panels, like aquaboard. So let me share with you what happened. Now that I laid the Satin MSA Varnish UVLS, I'm ready to experiment with the water. So these are the 2 paper that you're not supposed to brush those varnish on, and the aquaboard, which is a panel. So it is allowed. So dropping some water. Okay. So I only did 1 coat of this, but let's see how well it does. I'm going to press on it and we can see how much of the paint comes off. Okay, that was quite a lot on the phthalo. I don't know why it's always the phthalo that comes off. We are going to spray them next. I think I'll get another paper towel. Again, it's a phthalo. I do believe I kind of varnished it correctly, but it seems like the phthalo is the one that keeps on coming off. We are going to pour the water. Ready? So I'm going to start pouring. Place that on the side. Yeah, I don't see any movement whatsoever. The panel relatively does really well, rejecting everything that, like, every water that comes on top of it if you spray it with anything really. I'm going to see which one comes off. So first the phthalo. Let's even rub it around. Yep, it comes off. We didn't do this with the other tests, but I'm just going full on hard on these MSA varnishes. Yep, it's coming off now. I mean, you're not supposed to really be using MSA varnishes on paper anyway, but okay, so nothing seems to be coming off of the Krylon. Okay. Yep, it's really good. Nothing. I'm gonna scrub it just a bit. I know I didn't do this with others, but yep, doesn't come off. That's pretty good. Really good. So here's my line in the sand for brush on MSA. On watercolor paper, it's high risk. I would suggest not to use it on paper because papers are too delicate, and on panels and aquaboard, it becomes a really exciting option. So I know varnishing on watercolor can feel intimidating. That's how it feels like for me. There are solvents, humidity issues, matte versus satin, and it's a lot. There's a lot to consider. And honestly, I had to do this test because a lot of the things online are quite controversial. And I mean, there's a whole other varnishes that I still want to test that exist. I'll just show you what they were called, but I still am interested in testing more. But here's my honest take after testing these 4 varnishes. If you want a reliable varnish for every kind of studio, I would suggest the golden satin archival varnish. And the reason why is because it handled humidity, it stayed clear, and it gave the most predictable results. If you prefer low fumes and love preserving paper's texture, then I would suggest Dorland's wax is beautiful and affordable. But just remember, it's not waterproof. I treat it as a protection from dust and handling, but not spills. And you might kind of think like, well, why? Because like it repelled the water the most. But actually what happens is that that water is kind of like going underneath that wax eventually. So don't be fooled by just the fact that it repels the water most compared to, say, the spray varnishes. And if you're an experimenter and you work on cradled panels, then I would suggest going for the Satin MSA varnish. I would say the brush on varnish does create like a special like feel, like it gives that almost oil-like glow. And I would say really try to test like a small swatch for yourself as well with staining colors as well as granulating colors, and even experiment with different surfaces and experiment with what you have. This is all about experimenting and understand what you own in your studio. Leave in the comments what you would like to try as well as what you've experimented maybe in the past and what worked and what didn't. I would love to hear those, because especially for watercolor artists, I think varnishing is such a scary, intimidating final process because you've put so much time, hours into one painting, and just to see how it shifts is just like heartbreaking. So test your varnishes. And one thing I'm personally curious about next, especially after all this, is how these varnishes behave over time. Things like fugitive pigments, opera pink, for example, and whether different varnishes actually help slow down UV fading on paper versus aquaboard. If that's something you'd like me to explore next, let me know, because that feels like the natural next question after today. And if you haven't watched my video on fugitive colors that I tested over an extended period of time, check out this video. I'm sure you'll find something valuable. Okay, so see you next time.